back then it was always about per square foot. There was no such thing as developer A versus developer B. That didn't make too much of a difference. But today, I tell a lot of people also, we start to realize developers are very important. It's almost like comparing it to cars. When you step into a Mercedes showroom, you don't go there and say, I want to pay a Toyota price for it. People already have that expectation.
Welcome to the Find Your Place podcast. Yes, it's a collaboration between the Financial Coconut and OrangeTee. So I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. And I'm very glad to have you as a co-host, right? Of all people in the company.
Trying.
Yeah. So yes, Justin, for people that somehow don't know you, want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi guys, Justin Quek, CEO of OrangeTee and Thai. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being the co-host. Must hard carry.
Send the bill later.
Yeah. And then importantly, we have another guest. We got 6 episodes for this season, so you're in for hard work.
The bill will be quite hefty.
Yeah, okay. So we this one off camera we discuss again, right? But
we'll also send the bill later.
I don't mind to look at the proposal too.
But yes, we also have another veteran in the house. Are you considered a veteran? In some ways, in this digital space, you've been around, right? Yeah. So for everybody that don't know, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Bernard. I'm the CEO of Edgeprop. So I sell-koyo a bit, promote Edgeprop. So Edgeprop is a property platform which help users make better property decisions. So that's what we do.
Fair. So what exactly within Edgeprop do you all focus on? Because I know it's part of the Edge, right? Essentially.
Yeah. So we are sister company of the Edge, which is a media publication, which started in Malaysia, and then in Singapore we started in 2002. Edgeprop started about 9 years ago, so 2015. So I've been around for about 9 years in this real estate industry. So what we do, we provide a lot of content, rich content, insightful content, backed up by heavy research and also friendly, easy to use data. Our goal here is to essentially, like I say, empower users to make the right property decisions, but also empower the property agents, like OrangeTee property agents, to make the right decisions for their clients as well. So we provide that kind of information. So if you're not familiar with our platform, do check it out. edgeprop.sg.
A bit hard to not be familiar. So you're all over the place, right? And I'm sure the guys read it. Yeah.
I've been using Edgeprop for. Let's not review my age. For 10 years.
It's been around.
Exactly. He's still a faithful user until today as well.
I see his name pops up in the subscription list.
He tries to trace what I'm looking at.
What
is Justin buying?
What is Justin looking at? Right. Then we can review. This at the end of the podcast, we can review. Right. But all that as the backdrop, I think today we want to discuss a little bit, because with the experience that you guys have, I want to talk a little bit about the residential market in the West, right? Or quote unquote the West, like Jurong, Lakeside, the area. Because recently it's just hot, right? It's all over the place. A lifelong Eastie, right? We always think the West is wow, who goes there? Who stays there, right? But the prices are crazy, right? So maybe give me some color, what is going on in Jurong, in the West? Why is the residential market so hot? Help us lay some ground here.
Actually, when this topic came out, it was quite appropriate because last year we did a talk. So we also organized talks for our users through webinars, not so much podcasts, but webinars. And the topic of that talk was actually Journey to the West. So I thought, this topic...
That joke game very strong. That joke game very strong.
It's not considered that joke.
Journey to the West, yes.
So we did quite a bit of research in that area because what we are noticing on our platform is that a lot of people are searching for properties in the West, and we are also seeing a lot of movement in terms of the prices and the new developments that are coming up. But primarily, I think today when you talk about West or specifically Jurong, what we are really talking about is the Jurong Lake District, right? I think that area is going to undergo massive transformation. There was a single consortium made up of 5 of the biggest names. So we have CapitaLand, CDL, Frasers, then you have Mitsubishi and Mitsui coming together to develop this, how many square meters?
It's multiple sites, over a period of time,
So
huge
that
project.
development is going to go on for the next 15 to 20 years. Okay, I think that is the primary focus of the Jurong Lake District. But beyond that, you're going to have new MRT lines, right? So you have, today I think it's served by the East-West and also the North-South line through Jurong East MRT station. But going forward, you're going to have
regional
the
line.
Jurong regional line, right? And also the Cross Island line, which cuts across.
And hopefully got high-speed rail.
that one is another
I want to
topic,
come to that later actually,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
everybody asks, hey, is this HSR
Is he still
thing
coming? Is this
coming
happening?
back? But
you want to do another episode for that? Yeah.
don't bet all your money on that. Huh? Maybe you can bet some of your money on that possibility, but I think don't bet all your money on that because I think the Singapore side is ready to go, right? Because they took back Raffles Country Club, right? The site has been clear for that, but I think the Malaysia side probably needs to step up to the game as well. So you have, yes, possibility of HSR, you have MRT stations, but don't forget there's also Tengah, which is also technically in the west. Right, and there's tons of new developments going on in Tengah, right? So you have new HDBs, you have new EC condos in that area as well. So all in all, if you take all these things into considerations, Jurong is actually going to be in the news quite a bit over the next 10, 15 years. And that explains sort of the hype that we are seeing today.
Yeah, but the hype is very serious. Right, like the PSF is nuts. So it's like, what is it?
You must ask Justin.
Is it like overhyped already?
Right. I didn't contribute to that. But actually, maybe pursuant to what Bernard was saying as well, I think we are always looking at like sensationalized PSF consumer level driven data, right? But I think Bernard brought up a very good point. It's not just the retail investors that are looking there, right? For a developer to undertake a 15-year investment, that already says a lot, actually, if you look at it from the supply perspective, right? Because you're not just talking about retail investors saying, I want to punt in that area and see how it goes. This is five developers, in fact, and 5 really big ones, taking a very long-term view on developing Jurong. And that's a lot of capital investment going into one particular location to be spread out over 15 years. So I think that says a lot already, right? So again, in Singapore, I think it's quite simple. You see, they always last time said follow government, right? Don't know how to invest, just follow the Zhenghu. Where the Zhenghu put their money, where they're going to develop, you just put your money there. That was a very old school way of looking at it. Still applicable today. I mean, one thing that we can be very proud of in Singapore is always our government delivering what they mentioned that they're going to do, right? And you can see it's not just the developers. The developers are probably following suit on what the government is hoping to develop in Jurong. Having said that, let's get through all that sensationalized news about high PSFs and all that. If we just go back to the fundamentals of what Jurong represents now, right? Previously, Jurong, to most of us Singaporeans, is industrialized land.
Bird park.
Wow. Yeah, oh my God, actually, completely,
Snow
absolutely.
City Bird Park Science Center.
Yeah. Was a big bowling place there as well, right? Yeah, so...
Nostalgia game very strong.
Yeah, totally, man.
Typically industrial, right?
Typically industrial.
I'm not sure how
yeah.
true this story is, but they put the bird park there to prove that the birds can actually survive in the industrial area. But I don't know how true that story is. But that
Mandai, we welcome you to discuss.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Just to cut you
no
off.
worries. That was actually quite good. I mean, it's true. You see, that's why. So we laugh about it, right? Yeah. And perhaps that's why for so many years it was forgotten and maybe took a little bit of a backseat, right? The East Coast totally developed. Pasir Ris, Punggol also blossomed. Everybody sort of forgot about the West for a while, and because we just related it to like industrial land. But having said that, if you look at the whole industrialization process as well, right? Now we're going to like manufacturing 4.0, and where do you have the most sites to work with? You're talking about Jurong as well, right? And it's so easy to just reconvert many of those old properties that were previously maybe chemical engineering warehouses, air conditioning gas warehouses. And it's so easy for you to transform that into a new generation of industrialization. Having said that, plus the port, plus again, all that change that's going on there, the whole urban rejuvenation, plus the most important thing, we talk about Jurong being industrialized, but it today happens to be one of the largest HDB estates in all of Singapore, east and west. Almost 100,000 households are there. So largest on the island.
So it's taken over Tampines.
Yeah, again quietly, right? Because because Jurong is also huge, right?
So the east side lose already.
Don't give up so easily, already. We should not let the east go without a fight, Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure there'll be another podcast on the east. Right?
Yeah. I think you can ask the viewers if they want an East Coast.
Let's chat. Yes. But yeah, you were saying.
Yeah. So I mean, with all that. it's always about the economics, the employment, and then plus the whole livability factor. The birds survived, right? So people survive. It's now, like I said, 100,000 households of public housing there. I think developers before this also never really took too much notice, so you don't really see like a huge supply of like private housing developments. So I think the cycle for Jurong is just sort of starting. And that's why I think today also with most so-called consumers and all that, they're very savvy. They read up a lot on all these platforms. They develop their own narrative and storyline and say, I like this. I think there's a future in this. Let's take a position. Right? Yeah. And I think in Singapore, you never really had this kind of major transformation going on for quite a while already. Things have been always very evolutionary. Right? You talk about maybe Paya Lebar when the airbase moves out. Again, it's going to transform, but that's also going to take a bit of time. But with Jurong, it's exciting. The whole Tuas port is over there.
They shifted.
Your industries are over there. We talked earlier about HSR. I mean, that is another story altogether, right? Truth be told, Singapore is a very expensive place to do business. And Malaysia represents a very interesting opportunity for a lot of these businesses to take their manufacturing or their lower value work just across the bridge, right? And so Tuas happens to be, or the west side of Singapore happens to be nicely positioned for that. Yeah, so a lot of things are going on. Again, economic viability, the employment, then the livability now. So I think things are just really starting to come in.
For our audience that, maybe they heard of this Jurong Lake District thing because sometimes the media covers it, right? Or some people just a little bit more active in searching, but for the rest, could you kind of just paint a color, like what is this Jurong Lake District? What are they trying to do here? What is the idea? Although everybody is green these days, right? But what's so special about this Jurong Lake?
Okay, I guess to put it in a few sentences, the idea of Jurong Lake District, it's going to be the second largest CBD, right? After the CBD, obviously. In terms of office spaces, in terms of commercial retail spaces, but all by the lake, right? So the whole concept of this Jurong Lake District is work, live, play by the lake. And everything is going to be connected seamlessly, right? So imagine if you are working in your office, right? And then you want to go for lunch. So you go for lunch, obviously it's going to be commercial retail spaces nearby. And after lunch, you want to have a walk because I think it's healthy. But you don't want to walk in, places where it's congested with cars and noises and, bustling crowd. So you have the option of walking by the Jurong Lake Garden, right? Which is also undergoing rejuvenation. The Japanese garden, right? I think it's opening soon, and as well as the Chinese garden as well. And then you also have the new science center that is also going to be up. There's also a talk previously, but I don't think any proposal was put up, was that they were thinking of building something like a theme park, like a Disney kind of theme park, right? They call it the amusement center. I don't have the exact
Please
name.
don't call it the amusement center. Okay, if you call it the amusement center, no one will go. Okay, I'm very sure.
But the whole idea is building like a Universal Studio, but we already have a Universal Studio. So the idea was having somebody like Disney to come in. This is not set in stone. There wasn't any proposal received by the Singapore Tourism Board. So I think that was parked aside, but that may come back, right? So just imagine working, living, playing within, everything within 10 minutes. I think that's the whole idea, right? So you don't have to drive to CBD or drive to downtown to work, and everything is just so well connected. And that is going to continue for the next 10 to 15 years as part of the whole Jurong Lake District rejuvenation. So imagine that.
Okay, fair. So I don't think anybody would disagree with the eat, work, love, play, everything all in the same area, right? And then it's in a relatively green and nice environment. I think everybody wants that. But this second CBD thing, right, I think it's not the first time that the government has tried. So whether is it like in the east, Changi Business Park, and the whole thing is not working today, right? Maybe for a period of time, the hub and spoke thing kind of worked, right? But after this whole work from home or like remote work from anywhere, right? Kind of establish itself. You see even in the Changi Business Park area is struggling, right? So is this a bigger leap or what do you think? What makes you think this will be different? You know what I mean?
I think you have to look at the location, right? So do you have industries to support something like this? And in the case for Jurong, there is, because there are existing manufacturing centers, there are existing offices. There's also the Tuas Megaport that we alluded to. And don't forget the education institutions, right? Like your universities and all. They're all
Pulau NTU, right?
located in close proximity. And then coupled with all these new condos that are coming up. So you would have really a work-live place environment that is well supported by industries, well supported by education institutions, and the people that are living there. So I think location plays a big part. The places that you mentioned too may not have the same attributes as what Jurong would have. So I think, and you learn right from the past, right? You see what went
Then you
wrong,
try again, right?
And you try again. You cannot keep failing, lah. Eventually, you're going to get there. So I believe in the case of Jurong, the potential is there.
Okay. So that's the growth story, lah. Right. Do you share that growth story?
I think, maybe to also add on to what Bernard was saying, right? I think if one word can summarize all that stuff is integration. And I think the best part about integration is it's seasonally in trend now, right? I mean, we look at integrated developments, they've always like achieved stellar PSS. I mean, you keep hyping about pricing, about, in Jurong, which was set by Jaden.
That's why people listen to the show, right? They want to know what's
all
going
that
on.
sensationalized pricing, right? So
yeah.
I think different seasons, and this season happens to be really right on trend with integration, live, work, play. That's why integrated developments do very well. But yet also at the same time, beyond even the building itself is the entire environment. Like what Bernard was saying, we got the lake, possibly an amusement park, science center, and everything. So it's Singapore is in a very different season now. We're all living with first world privileges. It's no longer just about the simplicity of shelter. Right? Today,
shelter, walkway cannot be a platform anymore.
Now
Bomb shelter also shelter.
Yeah. That's considered shelter as well, right? Yeah. But I mean, this is the truth, right? We are living in a more complex world today, and that's why complexity usually can be derived more from integration, right? And in this case, it's not just integration within a project, but even the whole locality you're talking about. And I guess Jurong, in all its splendor and its color, has that ability to really reconfigure itself, right? Whereas, say you talk about Changi Business Park, right? That was previously on trend because wealth management was a big thing. But wealth management is very human capital intensive, which is why it made a lot of sense to divert some of the human capital out of the city center to take the strain away, right? The hub and spoke thing. But when you're talking about manufacturing 4.0 and the other various industries that are the Tuas Megaport and all that, it is not just human capital intensive, it is also capex intensive in terms of infrastructure and all that. So Jurong has that luxury of space and the reconfigurability of that as well to happen. Whereas in a more traditional business center, like maybe say Changi Business Park, that only more or less fit that human capital business. Yeah, so because of that, again, is on trend, right? Because going to manufacturing 4.0 and all that. So Jurong is quite a bit more relevant as a second CBD today, as Singapore also progresses and tries to diversify its economy. Yeah.
Okay, fair. So before we talk about specific projects, because that's what everybody wants to know. Okay, but before that, I do want to kind of dig your search data a little bit, right? Around this whole like Jurong searches, or it's like, is there a change in consumer? Like they're looking for a different way of life. It's not just about proximity to town anymore. Not about nearer to MRT, to good schools. I mean, good schools, that one is perpetual, right? Good schools circumference, there's always a premium. But based on your search data on your platform, do you see more search around like sustainable living, green spaces, these sort of things?
In all honesty, I think the two biggest drivers today in terms of how well a property does are still connectivity, which means MRT, right? And convenience, which means schools, right? So those are by far still the two most important drivers when it comes to determining property prices. But yes, there is a shift towards living closer to nature, right? Like earlier I mentioned the hustling and bustling of the cities. If you have a family with kids, maybe you don't want to live so close to the city centers because, it's very well connected, but it may not give you the convenience of schools, malls, groceries, places like that. Whereas living closer outside of the city, you may have access to this convenience. Sustainable living is also a very key topic these days. Although I believe a lot of it is still greenwashing. I think people say it for the sake of saying it, but there are developers and there are developments that truly prioritize sustainability, right? And I think the government has done a great job with rating these buildings. So BCA Green Marks have done a great job in certifying these buildings, whether they're up to a certain standards or not. So everything is standardized. They can't just say, oh, this building is sustainable, but they have to actually prove it. They have to get certification for it. And I think these buildings, what we have seen in terms of the price growth, they do make a difference because the developer cares about the building sustainability. And as a result, it's also a signal that they care a lot about other things, right? Like if you pay enough attention to sustainability, I'm sure you pay attention to things like maintenance of the building. How easy is it to maintain the building, right? And
Objectively true? You believe so?
Yes, I believe if the developer
okay.
cares enough about sustainability, I'm
Because
sure
that is like the extra already.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
if they
So if
can
you
care
care
about
the
the
extra,
your
you
basic
better do the core right, lah. And most of the time, I think they do get the core right because
It's the value system and the mindset, lah,
yes,
right? The attitude
yes,
towards it already.
yes. So I think these things do make a difference, and they do make a difference for things like ease of maintenance, like which I mentioned. Landscaping is also becoming a very important issue these days.
important in a sense of consumer preference? Like, is it gonna make a buyer decision, right? Is it gonna change prices? You know what I mean?
Like imagine after a long day at work, you go home, right? You would, would you want to go home to a place where it's very cold, very concrete, very hard landscape, right? Instead of places where it provides you with greeneries, a track where you can walk through, where you can hear birds chirping, butterflies floating. There are developments like that because what the developers have done is they've chosen plants that attract certain kind of animals. So down to that level of granularity, which is what we are talking about here. And I think developers have also taken landscape to another level. I will just give you anecdotal examples of sites that I've visited. So Edgeprop, we run these excellence awards every year, and as part of the requirement, we visit a lot of sites. So this year we did 18 sites across 3 days. So that just happened 2 weeks ago. So there was this development. I'm not going to name names unless
Must
they
win the
pay me.
award first.
Unless they pay me.
Yeah.
We'll send the
Can
bill later,
sponsor.
yeah.
We're very happy for sponsors. Yes.
Because, okay, it's not in city center, but Singapore a lot of highways, right? And you can't avoid being close to highways at times. There will be certain stacks which faces the highways. So what the developer has done very smartly, because obviously you're going to get the noise from the highways, right? What's a better way to address the noise from the highway than having a louder voice from your landscape? So what they have done, they've created a mini waterfall for their landscaping areas, which covers the noise from the traffic. I thought that was brilliant because then now I can sit technically just beside the highway, yet you don't hear any of the highway noises.
I
So
really
they
have a
paid-
perpetual white noise, right?
Yeah, it's a perpetual white noise, and it's soothing because it sounds like rainfall, right? So I think they've taken level up in terms of landscaping the development. So we will see more and more of such developments that takes advantage of being close to nature, being close to a forest, but yet at the same time incorporate a lot of the landscaping elements within the development. Yeah.
Hey coconuts, if you love the podcast, you need to check out the full episode on OrangeTee's channel. They're doing a lot of other interesting content like expert answers and Jalan Makan and more to come. So link in the description box below. Check out OrangeTee's channel.